Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and if this is your first time, welcome. Tonight, I'm going to share with you an experience that changed my life 4 years ago, forever, and indefinitely. And I want you to just listen, observe, watch, and take it all in. Feel what you feel, think what you think, and go with the flow. Whether that's calm, fear, anxiety, resonance, or any other feeling. I appreciate you being here. I remember the night we played We're Not Really Strangers in the living room. It's a memory I can see in my mind like I'm watching it at a movie theater. It stands out because I can see how clueless, innocent, and curious we both were. That moment foreshadowed what was to come, only with far less innocence and naivete. At that time, I felt safe and connected, but now in the present, that sense of safety feels like it was an illusion. The question asked what we thought the purpose of being in each other's lives was. You seemed unsure and curious. But when I chimed in, I made it clear that I felt our purpose was growth, that we were meant to grow through each other. I couldn't see it then, but my relationship with EB would push me into unknown territory and bring out parts of myself I had never met. I used to think that calling someone my best friend made them incapable of hurting me. But when you put a label on people, it doesn't change them. It just changes their position. I pedestalized someone that I didn't even see clearly, not in reality or outside of my own expectations. I don't feel wrong for expecting allegiance, protection, support, and care from somebody that I called my best friend. But my mistake was in thinking that a title would change who someone else is without them choosing to grow. EB and I were in each other's lives for almost 6 years before our friendship ended. We met when we were freshmen in college. At first, our relationship was reserved. We were part of the same group of queer friends, but outside of that, we hadn't connected much. EB and I gradually formed our own connection outside of the group, hanging out more and having separate conversations. I remember EB getting so drunk at a pregame and telling me she felt like she was drunk for the first time. We sat on a big chair taking random pictures, and in hindsight, that felt like the moment everything shifted between us. At parties, strangers would ask if we were dating, and we always said no, though it was clear to everyone but us how undeniable our chemistry was. We felt connected, but I didn't understand why people would assume we were more than friends. Looking back, it makes sense why we were to have moments that felt like they were more than just friendship. There were times when our connection felt different than what you'd normally expect from friends. From small gestures, sitting close and hugging longer than usual, to her accidentally calling me sexy from a reflection of a video I made. At one point, I even felt like I felt more than friendship, but I never acted on it, especially because she was in a relationship at the time. It makes me think of when she told me she'd thought of what it would be like if we dated, which makes me consider just how unspoken and truly complicated our dynamic was. By 2021, EB and I had the opportunity to move in together. We had lived together before with two of our other friends, Envy and LB. But without them, this was to be a new experience. At the time, EB was dating someone named MH. We had all noticed her at a party, and apparently EB had noticed her enough to want to date her. I thought MH was a vibe. She seemed cool and fun, like she was someone that would mesh in well with what the social environment at the time was. For a while, I shipped EB and MH's relationship. My friend was in a relationship and she seemed happy. She seemed to be enjoying the process and things looked like they were working out for them. But somewhere along the way, I started to feel uneasy, uncertain, and no longer sure how healthy this relationship really was for my friend. And sure, at the time, who was I to talk? I'd never had a healthy relationship myself, and I wasn't in any position to preach. But when you know something is off, you just know. At some point, I started witnessing a dynamic that didn't feel good for my friend, and naturally, I pulled back. In my pullback, I also started noticing how often the energy shifted when MH came around. It felt like there was always something or someone to be upset at or in conflict with. I couldn't fully define it, and I didn't understand it at the time, but my perception was shifting. I thought MH was a cool person individually, but seeing her more, especially in connection to my friend, something just didn't feel right. EB and I are officially moved in together. MH and our friend MC live around the corner, and the energy was exciting. We'd all just moved into new spaces, and the vibe's optimistic. Because of the distance, we found ourselves hanging out more, and for a while, it was fun. But as I continued to grow and heal, old feelings about MH, the ones I had denied, invalidated, and doubted in our old house, began resurfacing. I started noticing again that something didn't feel right. The way that MH would act or speak started standing out more, and my discomfort grew harder to ignore. She wasn't always mean or harsh, but a pattern was becoming clear, both in her behavior and in my own tendency to turn a blind eye, dismiss, and even minimize my experience. One night, I was sitting on the couch when MH said something that felt completely uncalled for. My best friend was telling us about her new job at the company I worked for at the time, and I was excited for her. But MH's response left me feeling triggered. As we played Mario, I noticed competitive comments coming from MH, which I read as covert attacks on MC. I simultaneously was present and frozen, unsure of what to do or say, or even what I was feeling inside. I tried, but there was little I felt safe saying. That night, I went home and thought about what happened. Surely I'm not losing my mind. Surely that happened, and surely I'm picking up on something real being shown. That's when I had another one of many conversations with EB about how I felt, sharing both concern and curiosity. It was in this conversation that EB gave me permission to speak directly to MH about what I'd been feeling. I didn't register it as permission at the time, but now, I can see that I felt like I needed her approval before I could speak on what I felt. In my eyes, EB and MH had the type of relationship that you couldn't say shit about because it wasn't your business. There was this protective energy around them that felt defensive, aggressive, and at times, even hostile. It wasn't linear or consistent, but it always gave the impression that I shouldn't step in, like anything I said or did would automatically be unwelcome, even if it was meant to help. It was like there was this unspoken rule that said, nobody gets in between us, and if they try, we don't like them. Which is why I understand why I reacted how I did. But after that night of energetic exposure, I knew I had to make a choice. God was pushing me up against a wall, and the crossroads was evident. I could say something or not say something, but either way, this feeling wasn't going to be dismissed again. Once I made my choice, I told EB, but EB thought that I was going to fix things with MH, to repair grievances. I knew that I didn't want repair. I was preparing to set boundaries with MH and leave things there. But this miscommunication between us set the stage for an explosive unraveling. When I was sure about my choice, I decided to confront MH sooner rather than later. No more lying to myself, shrinking my voice, or dismissing my true feelings. So, I chose the soonest time there was because I just didn't want to drag this on any longer. I texted MH letting her know that I wanted to talk to her about boundaries and our connection, and we planned to have that conversation soon. The night arrives. I am nervous. This is my first confrontation, and I don't want things to escalate. I've prepared for this discussion knowing it was important for me to choose my words carefully, as I remained aware that she was quick to take offense. I knew that MH wasn't a very peaceful person, and that she had her own, as she told me before, unorthodox ways, and that made me want to make sure my bases were covered. MH arrives. I thank her for coming, and we head upstairs to my room to talk. I acknowledge how I've been processing my own stuff. I expressed to her how I admire the way she is herself and uses her voice, but I made it clear that I draw the line at behavior that isn't supportive or kind. In this, I give her examples. Her immediate response is deflection, gaslighting, and defensiveness. Now, this isn't unexpected, but as the conversation continues, I can tell she's twisting the narrative into something it's not. She eventually leaves, slamming the door and notably upset, heading back to her house where EB and MC are, and I can feel that things are about to shift. The next day, EB stops by the house with MC, and she's getting arepas from the freezer to make for them. Arepas were something EB said that she'd make for all of us. So now I'm confused and uneasy because clearly, I'm not being included. I mention this to EB, and she basically tells me that MH wanted them, and she will bring me back some. Do you think she brought any back? Something so simple felt suddenly heartbreaking. I could tell that EB wasn't the same person she was before my conversation with MH. The energy had shifted. Something was off. I was now on the outside looking in my own house, and in my own friendship. This was the moment that I realized I was no longer being included. EB disappears, leaving me alone while texting me about what happened, what I said, and what I meant. Things get messy when she starts speaking as if she were there, contorting what happened in a moment that I was present for. I realize EB has completely switched on me and is no longer a safe space. We argue there, and the tension continues back at home. I'd stopped responding to MH and rejected having another conversation. By this time, I was feeling the weight of everyone's darkness, including my own. I was being blamed, shamed, guilted, made into someone I'm not, and I was alone. The weight of it all, the manipulation and heaviness, made it impossible to think straight. I knew what I'd felt was right, but why was I feeling wrong? I knew I had pure intentions, but why was I feeling bad? I needed to reconnect with myself and what I truly felt before putting myself back into the spotlight, only to be attacked for being real. It was now that I realized the very thing I'd tried to avoid for years, the thing I was most afraid of, it was happening. MH created a situation that suddenly had sides, when there hadn't been any until she made them, and not because of me, but to spite me. Watching it all unfold was disorienting. It was clear who MH was, and it was clear who I was, who I am. And yet somehow everyone threw away the truth of my being and replaced it with a narrative I'd never seen before. Suddenly, I was being painted as someone who thought they were better, someone fake, malicious, unwell, manipulative, unkind, egotistical. I didn't understand where all this energy was coming from, especially from EB. I thought she was my best friend. But instead of addressing the real issue, the behavior that I confronted MH about, my character was the target, and I was on the chopping block. I mean, things even got to the point where I was so manipulated that I genuinely felt like we could move forward, EB and I. That it was just a misunderstanding, but something we could get through as best friends. Hell, I even started reconsidering what I said to MH, and started believing it was my trauma speaking. That denial and bargaining didn't last. I'd always said I can be cordial. I'm not the type of person who goes out of my way to make someone feel uncomfortable just because we don't mesh, get along, or vibe. MH was EB's girlfriend, so I expected her to still come over. Same with MC. A few days went by, and EB told me that MC and MH were coming over. Leading up to this, I was already getting signs of MH making her way toward me. Angry, reactive, and ready for something. I knew that them coming over left potential for another confrontation. And looking back, I feel like my best friend knew it too. I feel she knew it and wanted to see me defeated. On my knees, admitting to being someone I'm not, shown for who I really am. So, I finished work, and by the time I got off, they were at our house. I did a meditation for confidence because I knew I'd need to be grounded. Then I went downstairs and said hello. MC said hello, but MH did not, which didn't surprise me. I left to go to the store, came back, and went to the kitchen to get more water before heading upstairs. Out of nowhere, MH cuts in front of the partially opened fridge, blocking me, questioning me about why I stopped responding and why I'd pulled my energy back. It was clear that she did not like me ignoring her existence over text, nor in person. Her tone was aggressive the moment she opened her mouth. So, you just weren't gonna talk about... To which I responded calmly that no, I wasn't going to talk more about it because I didn't like how she was acting, nor what she was insinuating. Immediately, you didn't like how I was acting? You're the one who... And the confrontation continued to spiral as she kept trying to twist the narrative. I told her that there was no ill intent, and she said, "So it was an accident." I'm like, it wasn't an accident and it wasn't on purpose. There was no... She didn't want to believe this. But as she kept talking in circles, I used my hands to gesture to EB's room, telling her that if she wanted to talk, we could... And she dodged it twice, claiming that she was waiting on me, even though I'm right here. This told me everything I needed to know. She didn't want to talk. She wanted a chance to make me shrink, a moment for her to attack me, just like she felt attacked, when truthfully, I never attacked her. Honestly, I think she was just mad she didn't say something first, though she clearly had a lot of pent-up energy toward me. It's no wonder I was protecting my energy. She expected me to return to her, down on my knees, begging, "Baby, please, can we make this right?" For something that wasn't even true. It's safe to say that we never found a solution that night, or at all. She continued to avoid while throwing insults and lashing out, calling me weird repeatedly. "You're weird. You're so weird. Why are you so weird?" Said I have no friends, that everyone on Instagram sees it. Sees what? I really couldn't tell you, but obviously my Instagram was a threat to her. Now I'm loud, pathetic, a coward, the loudest person she knows, in my ego, fake, setting her up, and needing to know that she's not going anywhere, as if I'd ruined an almost 6-year friendship to get her to leave. I still have my own, with EB and MC sitting back, watching the whole thing unfold. At one point, because I talk with my hands, she snapped at me, telling me that I needed to stop moving, which was interesting because it's like, girl, what? You think I'm gonna fight you right now? I asked her, what is this actually about? No response, no acknowledgement. And as she kept insulting me, I told her that this is exactly why I didn't want to be in connection with her. She was literally proving my point. I told her I knew she wanted me to get small for her, and I wasn't going to do that. Once she realized her tantrum wasn't working, she said, "Goodbye, I'm done with you," and returned to the counter with her switch like that was the final word. To which I stood my ground and said, "And I'll stand right here. This is my house. Like, hello?" She said whatever, claiming she was going to enjoy the rest of her night. Only then did EB make a loud banging sound, the first sign of any reaction or care throughout the entire situation. She was frustrated. I was disappointed, but I walked toward the stairs to go back up. EB mentioned something about apologies. I said I didn't need one. She said, but maybe she does. Which, not to mention, but I'm mentioning, I had already apologized. And I swear I heard her whisper calling me a bitch under her breath, but I blocked it out. She didn't say it directly, and honestly, I was over it. And that was that. For now. Fast forward to EB's graduation when her parents come into town. Naturally, MH is going to be there. She's her partner, EB and I live together, and they're coming to the house we share. Again, we're having to share common ground. Things are chill, but there's still this underlying tension between the three of us. At one point, MH starts talking about this girl I used to talk to, and how she wants to go on a double date with her and EB. Obviously, I know she's trying to get a reaction out of me, and I ignore her, but I peep it. Then, when EB is trying on her outfit for graduation, MH blocks the doorway, and when I say excuse me, trying to get in, she stiff arms me like her arm is the barrier to entering. There was a recognizable shift in energy, antagonizing and territorial. But again, I was not going to let her bait me into a verbal or a physical altercation, especially with EB's parents in town to celebrate her. The reality was that MH didn't care. She didn't care who was around, what the moment was, what weekend this was, or what this time could have meant to EB. She didn't care it was her moment. She didn't care it was meant to be celebratory. All she cared about was trying to get her lick back for something that didn't even exist, except in her own mind. EB was still making excuses, minimizing, defending, and still just being too nonchalant, like I deserved it. It was in that moment, watching EB excuse behavior that was so clearly out of line, that she was losing me. I told her that, and she knew she was. Ironically, my best friend and I had been planning to re-sign our lease for the next year. We set out to stay together another year, but we hadn't signed anything yet. And like God does, right on time, I was saved and protected. With only a few months left, I worried about the timing, my plan, and what was going to happen. I signed a few pages, trying to just ignore it, but something in me just couldn't sign the rest. Something deeper inside of me knew I couldn't live with her anymore. If she couldn't protect me, be accountable, or hold her partner accountable, how could I trust that living there for another year would be safe? How could I trust that things wouldn't escalate even further out of anger, envy, or jealousy? I had been abandoned, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, even physically, and I knew I could no longer believe in the friendship I was under the illusion of having. EB just didn't care enough for me. She couldn't defend me in front of me, but she claimed she did behind closed doors. She couldn't be honest to my face, but she insisted she wasn't being fake. EB and I had a conversation where I told her I wasn't going to resign and that we were not friends anymore. She said she understood, but she was upset, shifting the narrative into people always leave her and how I'm just like everyone else. Except what she didn't realize, what she didn't recognize, is that I wasn't everyone else. I was a different person saying the same thing she had already heard or seen before from multiple people when it came to her relationship with MH. And the truth is, I would have never let anyone treat her how she let MH treat me. I would have defended her every time, because it's not okay to bully someone in their own home, in general, talk down to my best friend, or try to bait someone into an altercation. EB and MC left me to take on the consequences of something we all played a part in and knew had validity. Yes, I was fake. We all were. We had not evolved nor matured in strides as individuals. We all survived in our own ways. But I was fake for survival, not because I had a hidden agenda or a weapon behind my back waiting to execute. I was trying to stay safe in an environment that I felt danger in speaking up in. I realized that I could have spoken up more, sooner, in the old house when I first felt those feelings. I could have handled certain moments better, but we all could have. I wasn't the scapegoat for everything going awry at the time, but that was part of my role. Yes, my relationship with EB carried sensations of something more than a friendship at times, but I was never going to do anything to jeopardize her relationship with MH. I wasn't even sure about my feelings, and I was hyper aware that EB was in a relationship with someone that was possessive and aggressively reactive. What's interesting is that EB was actually the one playing both sides. She would initiate things to bait me, send mixed signals, and then act like I'm the one causing the tension. She was projecting like I was the one who wanted them to break up, when really, she knew they shouldn't have been together anymore, and she felt uncertain. MH was insecure in her relationship with EB, and that insecurity had nothing to do with me. If strangers at parties could feel our dynamic, MH could too. MH was insecure because of a lack of connection with EB, in whatever way, not because of me, but I was just the easiest to blame. If I felt threatened by my partner's best friend, that's a conversation for me and my partner, not something to place on my best friend unless actual boundaries are being crossed. And I don't believe any lines were crossed on my end. I doubt that they'd even had defined boundaries. There were things EB wouldn't say or do if MH was around, and there were things I avoided too. But I never tried to tempt, steal, or sabotage their connection. There was a constant subtle sense of walking on eggshells, even in the simplest moments of friendly closeness. I don't deny that there were unhealthy ways that EB had with MH either. I'm sure there are more things that I didn't know, see, or hear about, just like MH didn't see, know, or hear about everything either. But EB was my best friend, and MH was her partner. By default, I was going to care about my best friend. I understand why MH was upset, and why she felt hurt, but the way that she handled the situation was out of pocket, unfair, and cruel. However, I can see that I needed her to blow shit up because I wasn't going to do it. Not like that anyway. What I learned from all of this is something that I had been running from for years. The signs were always there. The nudges were always there. The truth was always whispering. And I ignored it because I wanted to believe things had changed, even when nothing showed me that they had. I didn't want it to be real, but it was. I can't save people that won't save themselves, and sometimes People have to fight their own battles. We were all silent for too long, and this situation exposed all of us, to each other and to ourselves. Boundaries are important. Communication is important. Speaking up for yourself is important. Honesty is important. Telling the truth is important. Even if everyone turns against you, being yourself is important. Having uncomfortable conversations is important. Choosing your relationships wisely is important. Trusting yourself and your intuition is important. Healing is important. Growth is important. Living with my ex-best friend after all that for the next few months before he moved out was weird and hard. I spent so many nights crying in my room, knowing the person I was grieving, the person I was realizing I never truly had, was just downstairs. We barely talked, but when we did, it was awkward, familiar, light, and heavy. I was mad. I was sad. I was confused. I was deeply hurt. And I could tell EB was realizing what she had done, how she had betrayed me, how she had made the wrong call, how she failed me. I'll never forget when she said she knew I was going to blast off. She wasn't wrong. I did. This whole situation snapped me back into reality and catapulted me into the transformation of a lifetime. I thought I was only cutting off one connection, but I ended up cutting off 3. I wasn't awake before, but now I am.